All right, I'm gonna see how we're doing here. It's been a while since I did a live stream and forgot how to do it. And there's a lot to set up here, and we've got a lot to cover tonight. So it's an exciting night for us at Right Wave Audio, and I'm hoping you can hear my audio just fine. We have three things to unbox tonight. We're going to do a pretty extensive shootout between Denon Marantz products that are able to do 7.4.4 configuration. And so we have the two Denon products, which is the AVR X3800H and the X4800H, and we have the Marantz Cinema 40, which is the grade up from the Cinema 50, which is sitting over here in my rack here. And just making sure that we're all live here in a good way. Well, it looks like we have 8 people online. Good, 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 good. And if there's something you particularly want to see while we're going to be reviewing these models, let me know. And hopefully my rhythm gets up a little bit more on this live stream. As I said, I'm not used to doing these. The last one we did was in the fall. But I thought this was going to be a great shootout. Hey, we got Joe and Tell. That's an honor to have you here tonight. I thought this is a great matchup because all these units are doing 7.4.4. There's a wide range of prices on these, starting at around $1,600 for the Denon 3800H, going up to the Cinema 40. And the only thing that really seems to differentiate these is some more power on the amplifiers. Some of them made in Japan, some are made in Malaysia. But pretty much the same feature set. They're supporting all Dirac with a paid upgrade. They're all supporting Dolby Atmos, DTSX, and they're all supporting Aural 3D. And we don't have a lot of AVRs that are supporting Aural 3D out there. So this is good to see. Now we just did a review of the Onkyo TXRZ50, and that doesn't have Aural 3D. But if you move up to the TXRZ70 from Onkyo, this is going to be the first Onkyo product with Aural 3D. But you have to pay more for that unit. And the Denon 3800 is, I think, one of the more entry points for Aural 3D out there. So this will be a very interesting shootout. Now, if you've been following this channel, we've been doing some comparisons. We have, of course, the Emotiva RMC1 in our rack, which is a standalone processor. We brought in the Anthem AVM70, and of course that Onkyo I just mentioned. In all cases, while we were pleased with the Marantz Cinema 50 with the sound, we never thought it sounded as good as what it was being compared against. So in all cases, whether that was the Anthem, whether that was the Onkyo, or it was the Emotiva, we always thought that it was in last place. And so we're trying to find out, is just an anomaly? Did I have actually a unit that isn't really performing well and it was a production problem? Or is this a consistent thing with Denon Marantz? Is there a difference between Denon and Marantz? This is what I want to find out. Is if there's a difference between these two products. And I also want to find out is if you move from the next tier up. So we have the Cinema 50, which is the entry level for 7.4.4 from Marantz, and we got the 3800, which is entry level for 7.4.4 from Denon. When you move up to the next tier, do you actually notice those differences? So when you go from the Cinema 50 to the Cinema 40, or you go from the 3800X X3800 to the X4800, can you notice this? And we do have still our TX-RZ50. Now that's going back soon here, but with this overlapping of getting products in, I can actually do a comparison with these models against the Onkyo as well as the Emotiva. So we have in our house right now 6 either AVR or AV processors that we can compare, which is a really unique situation. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start opening these boxes, take a look at what we've got. We'll be able to do some physical comparison, but I'm going to be listening to the chat here. I want to know what you want to see for comparisons between these. What can I do to help you? Because not everybody's able to bring all these products in to their living room all at once. So we're going to start, and I think we're going to start with the box that's underneath my computer here, unfortunately. I'm going to start with the 3800, then we're going to go to the 4800, and we're going to go to the Cinema 40. And basically moving up in price as we open these up. And an interesting story, my 8-year-old, I asked him, which one do you think is the most expensive, just looking at the boxes? And he picked it right. He picked the Cinema 40 as the most expensive, and then followed by the 4800 and the 3800. He says, oh, but the boxes are bigger. So they've got to be more expensive if you go to a bigger box. So that was his thought process. So let's just slide everything over here. And you can see we've got some of his stuff mixed in here. We've been playing PS4 lately. PS5, actually. PS4 game on a PS5. So we're going to start with the 3800. And as you're watching here, I want to know if you have some experience with any of these units. And if you have some ideas of tests, that would be great. And so we're starting to get some comments in here. Any differences? This is Joe and Tell asking, is there differences between the HDAM technology on the Marantz versus that on the Denon? I don't know if there's a difference there. That's going to be the curious thing. And the way I've been doing these comparisons are, when we first hook these all up, we're going to hook them up 100% to our external amplifiers. So we have up front here, we have 3 Emotiva model blocks powering the front stage. Those are XPA1 Gen 2s. And then for the side surrounds and the rear surrounds, we have Emotiva XPA DR2, which is the latest Gen 3 stuff. They're all differential reference. So for the ear level speakers, we're running differential reference. And for our 4 height speakers, we're running a vintage Sony TAN 9000 ES 5-channel amplifier. So we're using the 4 channels on that. So let's talk about what we're getting out of the box here for the 3800. We've got a remote here. And I want to keep the packaging separately. And this is the one for the 3800. This is for the Marantz Cinema 50. So they're using different remotes between Denon and Marantz. They all have their unique style. We've got an IEC power cord, quick start guide. You know I'm a big fan of reading manuals. We have our antennas, and we've got some labelings for the cables. Again, we get a rocket ship, which we will never use because we much prefer a tripod. or better yet, a microphone stand with a boom, and then we can do our measurements that way. That's our preferred way of running our either Odyssey or Dirac with these models. So all of these come default with Odyssey support. You can optionally pay extra money to get Dirac support. It isn't free like it comes with the Onkyo. So they do give you the microphone for the Odyssey. I suspect we're going to have a lot of repeats here. We got the batteries for the mic as we go through all these layer of foam protections. And I suspect as we go up on these, they're going to get heavier. Set this box aside. Now, when these shipped to me, they didn't come double boxed. I bought all of these through Amazon. And here's the unveiling of what the Denon 3800 looks like on the front. We're going to just slide this off here. We've got separate knobs for volume and input selection. I have to take a quick closer look to make sure I'm saying that correctly. On the Denon, certainly a much different look on the Denon than on the Marantz, because the Denon you actually get LCD screen with that you can see from a distance versus the porthole on the Marantz. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for your support on this. And I've been using, just started using, it's got to be over here, a little plug for the spatial audio calibration toolkit. And if you saw my last video, we're starting to use that in our testing and seeing how objects pan around the room. And if there's differences between these receivers or processors and how it's handling that. You know, it's interesting. We got one comment here that the Marantz line looks so much better. And that's a matter of preference. I've heard it both ways. And I think each style appeals to a different audience. But as you're saying here, Jason, is it worth the $1,000 premium? And it does seem to be always paying more for the equivalent model in a Marantz. And that's what I want to understand. Is this just a marketing difference on the prices, or is it something you can really hear? I really just don't see on paper how the feature sets can justify it. So let's open up the next one. And again, I want to make sure I'm not mixing up the contents. I'm going to put this back in the box. Because I'm not going to be able to keep all of these. And I have somewhere my letter opener. I'm not using my normal Canon camera, which is a DSLR, but a webcam, because I had to go with what I knew would work with this live stream using YouTube. And that was just a Logitech USB camera. So what I'm opening up next is the step up from the 3800, which is the AVR X4800. And the first thing, again, it's packaged in a very similar way. The box is a little taller. But as you go through this, you've got the remote. Where's the other remote? I already put it in the box. Yes. And looking at these, they look exactly the same. In fact, they both have a model number RC12. Well, actually, one says 1252 and 1253. So the model number is slightly different. So I imagine while they look very similar, there may be a button or two that is labeled differently. Yes, this one for the 4800 has a zone 3 button, and this one has a zone 2 button. So they're slightly different on the remotes. It looks like it has backlight, and I just can't see where the button is. But the Marantz one definitely has backlight. We'll find out later. Stay tuned. So were we going to see the same accessories? Yes, the Odyssey microphone. We're going to have the quick start guide. We're going to have the antenna and labels. We're going to have the rocket ship. We're going to have the power cord. So accessories wise, we're the same here. We've got batteries inserted on that. I'll just use my own batteries. You know, it would help if I had a second person here. Set that down. The foam was a little damaged in this one. And let's line this one up. Look at it side by side. You know, I like the comment there. I paid the premium. You know, even if things are equal as far as they sound equal, they have the same feature set. Sometimes there's more to what goes in your rack than just the sound quality and the features. But there's something about the way it looks and it feels, and you just feel more like it fits you. It fits your living room, or it fits your theater, and it blends in with the aesthetic that you want, the way you want to interact with it. There's the ergonomics that you may like better one versus the other. So I think that's why it's good that Denon and Marantz have really gone a different approach as far as their look and feel, because it can appeal to different people. And I'm really curious, and I see one note about always using Denon models versus Marantz, is I'm hearing stories, even though Denon might be a little cheaper for the similar specs, I'm hearing some stories that it could actually sound better than the Marantz. I'm really curious to find out if that is true. So I'm going to take all these accessories and put it into that box. Again, I don't want to mix these up. So we've got two in front of us. And so far, I'm going to turn around and look. These seem similar. Now this has an extra thing. Yes. So the 4800 has a concealed door that opens up, and the 3800 doesn't. So if you're into concealed doors, you get it in this model. It doesn't look like they're hiding any displays behind it, just some buttons. Now, for the Cinema 40, which is the upgrade from the Cinema 50, which is sitting over here in the rack. You can barely see it. And I hope you guys can hear me okay. So, time to open up this guy. What I'm really excited about on the Cinema 50, the Cinema 40 versus the Cinema 50, cosmetically they look very similar, but the Cinema 40 has LEDs on the side wings, and I'm looking to see that. I was actually a little disappointed. I thought I was going to get that with my Cinema 50. I plugged it in. It's like, where's the LEDs? They're not on the Cinema 50. So when you do upgrade to the Cinema 40 and pay more money, you are getting also the LEDs. I think there might be some color choices on there. So as far as packaging, we're seeing one difference. Marantz has an accessory box versus things just laid into the styrofoam. And I got a similar accessory box, I remember, when I opened up the Cinema 50. And when you open this up, I mean, look at that presentation. They're definitely trying to position the Marantz with a little more experience for the user here. Yeah, a lot of porthole hate out there. You know, and it's not even my favorite classic Marantz look. When I grew up, my dad had, I think it was mid to late 70s, a 2275. That was a stereo receiver from Marantz, silver. He had got the wood enclosure option, blue lights with the tuner, gyro touch tuning. That thing was gorgeous. To me, that's one of the best looking receivers ever made. You got to go back to some earlier models where they had the porthole, and it's not my favorite. I'm getting a cup of coffee from Joe. Thank you. A little Joe from Joe. So here in the accessory box is the Marantz Cinema 40 remote. Here's the Cinema 50 remote. Physically the same size. They both have the side backlit button. I actually like that backlight button on the side. I can decide whether I want to turn the backlight on. After a while, I get to know where the buttons are on a remote. So I don't always need that once I know it. But again, what you get, they're slightly different. You get the Zone 3 button on the Cinema 40 versus the Cinema 50. You also get another button in here with the input selection. And it looks like the difference is, well, I think you get an additional input on the Cinema 40. And that's it. There's more inputs, more IOs on the Cinema 40. So they do have a slightly different remote. So it kills me. Some of these companies have been using the same remote for over a decade, and they don't change when they come out with new models. I think Onkyo was one of those that are guilty of that. Now, also in this box are your antenna ears. The antenna ears must have been in one of those accessory packs. The battery. You get a quick start guide. Now, this is a little bit of a complaint from me, is a lot of these receivers are not really doing a full remote. This is a quick start guide. It talks you through your initial configuration. Now, at least this is dedicated to Cinema 40. I've seen ones where they're covering their full product line, the full range with one manual, not just AVRs, but their processors like Anthem, all in one. And they tell you, go online and download the manual. When I get the Emotiva RMC1, that's what I really liked, was it's on a spiral bound. I can open it up, it lays flat. It's a really good manual. It's I think it's pretty much dedicated to it, although it might also do the 1L. So as I go in deeper in this is where you get your antennas and all that other stuff. I mean, it's pretty much the same accessories, but just the experience is a little more. They go over the HEOs here. And I'm just going to set this aside. That is the accessories box. We've got the IC power cord. Nice to have removable power cords. I guess most products have those nowadays. The same Odyssey microphone. Now I've got 3 of them. And if you use the Dirac, you don't have to use that. You can use like a UMIC 1. Now this is nice. Wait until you see this. It just, and need to go work out. Look at that packaging compared to the Denon. I mean, there's definitely some extra care there. It's sort of more like opening up an Apple product. You get an iPhone or whatever, and it's just that experience you get open the box. Same company, but the experience for Marantz, you're paying more for it, but it reflects in the packaging and so forth you get there. So, Joe, yeah, there's, I didn't realize that the AV10 has a metal remote. And I personally like a heavy remote. And that's what I get with my Emotiva. Could probably kill somebody with this, but I won't. It's not backlit. But it feels good in my hand. There's something about the experience. So, boy, I'd probably like that AV10 remote. Of course, you're paying, what is it, $7,500 for an AV10? Yeah. And I'll tell you, at the moment, I'm bringing a lot of these processors and receivers in. My kind of threshold for pain is over $5,000. I really don't want to get into that quite yet. I mean, I think there's a time, but I think most of us are, more comfortable paying between $1,000 and $3,000, maybe $3,500 for a processor receiver. You start getting up to $4,000 or $5,000. Not everybody can do that, and so at the moment, I'm kind of focusing on these more affordable units, those under $5,000. So let's get this looking well. And here they all lined up side by side. And I could just feel this is definitely more substantial. I don't have my notes up here. I've got the specs on all these. When we go and do the full formal review, we'll call out the difference in the weights here. Now we see the two clips here. Obviously, the Marantz, that door is going to pull down. The other thing we'll do is when we do this review, I'm going to pull my Cinema 50 off the rack, and we're going to have this side by side. But I can tell you, is that? No, I think it's still plastic on the side there. But there's a nice metal feel on the front of this. And even on the Cinema 50, I like the feel of their knobs. They've got a nice little resistance to them. And there's resistance here in the Denon. It's a little different, but it's better than some others. I mean, I don't like the feel of my Emotiva RMC1, the way those knobs work. And I see the comment here about calibration here. And I really feel that I'm really not certain while Dirac is really taking hold out there, and I do like the results I'm getting. It's nice and quick and going, getting things set up. But I do feel like things could still be better. So something like a Magic Beans, is that going to make it better? Maybe. And if it does, I'm all ears. We're always looking to do something better. Now, we have noticed the difference when we went from Odyssey to Dirac, when we did the upgrade on the Cinema 50, when that became available in March. We liked what Dirac did over Odyssey, but it really wasn't enough to get it over the curve where I said, this is close enough to some of the other products we've been reviewing. Yes. Mess of boxes, yeah. So maybe what we'll do at this time is we're going to turn these all around. I do actually want to plug this in. I want to plug them in. Want me to plug them in? I'm going to plug them in. Let's get some power cords on this. Excuse the mess too. You know, we're at this point, I'm more about giving you content than giving you gloss. I got to respect these YouTube reviewers who can also give you some nice gloss on the videos or some infotainment. You know, I'm not as funny as other guys out there, but I hope that I make up for it in some of the content that we're delivering. But I learned from the other YouTube people. Everybody pulls up a little different aspect. I do definitely recommend that you visit other channels and get a full picture there. Let's see. I got a power strip down here. There's one. Here, we've got another IEC power cord that's already here. Now, I noticed on Denon and Marantz, on the IEC power cords, there's only 2 plugs, not 3, as you get on some. And yeah, it's the same on the Marantz Cinema 40. There are only 2 plugs. There's not a ground plug there as well. You know, I think you're right about great calibration on a lot of systems, but I think it's less to do with the actual calibration that comes with it that makes the difference in the sound signature you hear. I think that each brand or model has their own sound signature, and whether you take it out of the box and use it without room correction or you add the room correction, it's still going to sound relatively the same compared to something else. At least that's what I've been discovering so far. If we get into this further and I learn something else, then we can adjust our thoughts. You got to be flexible in this game. It's okay to be wrong if you're willing to realize you were wrong. That's what gets me through the day, at least. So we got them all plugged in. Let's turn them on. So we'll turn on the 3800. Yeah, let's move this out of the way. That's my power to my laptop. And we'll turn on the 4800. And we'll turn on the Cinema 40. And you can hear the clicking of the relays and everything going on. Marantz has got the little 1960s style star burst that comes up. But you know, as far as the look of the Cinema 40, it looks very much like the Cinema 40 with the porthole. And then you get those nice big displays. I know a lot of you are distracted by lights that are on the receivers, and you'll either power the lights down or you'll turn them off, or you put these things in racks in a closet away from your theater. I still like looking at these, and I do appreciate, like on my Emotiva, which I'll turn on here as well, the great big display, and I can see at any time whether it's in surround mode or Atmos mode, and it's really easy to read. Again, everybody has a different preference on this. Yeah, nothing, no blue smoke. I didn't blow anything up yet. We'll know better when we start plugging amplifiers up. So the question was, how do I feel about my Emotiva compared to the Onkyo RZ50? Well, it sounded better. I mean, it's a little bit of more of a sparkle to the sound. And so, as I was saying, when I compare these things, I start with no room correction at all. I start with everything on external amplifiers. So I'm doing like. I want to know how that sounds as a processor first. And then once we've done the comparison with processor to processor using external amps, then I move over to the internal amps and see how it compares. But I thought the Emotiva has a little more of a sparkle. Now, you haven't seen my channel before. I've got this rig over here, and I've got to find a way to kind of like Velcro and hold this thing together. But I have 8 of these Duke Audio stereo switchers, ABC. And it can take balanced and unbalanced connections. And when I'm going through this, each one is on a different pair: front channel, center channels, surround, rear surround, first row height, second row height. So I only have 2 rows of heights, but most of the receivers, the kind of the sweet spot today, is a 7.1 or .x.4 configuration, and that's exactly what I've got. I am kind of wired already for front wides, so I'm just waiting to get an amplifier and some speakers to start doing the 9.x.4. But I haven't gone to Voice of God, and I haven't gone to a 3rd row of heights. So you've seen what it looks like on the front. This is just an initial view. We can see that the more expensive units have a hidden door. I got mixed feelings about a hidden door. I kind of like the way it looks, but I do like the convenience of not having to open up a door to get to things. And I don't like it when they hide the the headphone jack behind the door. Luckily, Marantz keeps that exposed. And I think, no, Denon puts the headphone jack behind the door. Now, the other thing I'll point out before we flip these things around is the Cinema 40. What you're going to get beside the door in the front with the Cinema 40 versus the Cinema 50 over here is, you notice when you open this door, and I don't think you can see the door from way over there, this guy's in the way. And it doesn't want to focus. Come on, come back to me. There it goes. There's no extra LCD screen. Boy, it really wants that speaker to focus. Really wants that it's got the LCD screen underneath the door, and the Cinema 50 doesn't. I think some of you would pay the extra money for the Cinema 40 just to get that extra display. And there's another set of lights that the Cinema 50 doesn't have, which are these LED cosmetic lights. And if I turn the lights down in the room here, you might actually be able to see it. I don't know if this makes a difference, but there's little lights. And I don't know if you can change the color on those. Somebody else might know. But that's the front of these. So if we do a flip around, let's take a look at the other side. We're real raw here tonight. Let's just let my Boston accent slip in. It comes out every once in a while. So I'm going to go around the other side, and hopefully you can still hear me. and we're going to take a look at these. But before I do, one of the things I'll note here is just the cosmetically, Denon uses red and black for positive and negative on the amplifier connections on these. That's the Denon. The Marantz are kind of these clear, but it's still red and black on the tip. Just a little different cosmetics there. All right. So what are we going to get here in difference from amplifiers? Now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They both have 11 sets of connections on here. But there's only 9 channels of amplification. So as you're making different speaker configurations, it may be powering one terminal versus another. On this Cinema 40, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And again, these are all 9 channels of amplification. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going by memory here. But you change these and configure. So you're getting the same amount of amplifier channels, but you get more power as you go up. But its slight difference is, and they give all their ratings on a 2-channel rating. And when you do the 70% rule that Denon and Marantz have, that number gets closer. So I don't think you're getting, at least on paper, that much more oomph when you move up in the power. But we're gonna test this out, and we're gonna do our A/B comparison. We have another Duke Audio switch. We'll do up to 2 units where we can switch just the amplifiers. On the I/O, we have 6 and 3 on HDMI, we have 7 and 3, and we have 7 and 3. Here's another difference. No composite component on here. Here we have 2 composite, 1 component, 2 composite, 1 component. So the Denon 4800 and the Cinema 40 have the same, basically the same layout. They all have AM/FM antenna. What you'll notice difference is on your triggers. You only have 1 trigger on the 3800 and the Cinema 50. You've got 3 trigger outputs on the 4800 and the 40 on that. What else do you have different here? I've got 5 in on the analog and 1 phono, 5 in, 1 phono, 5 in, 1 phono. Those are all the same on the analog. Let me get the microphone over here, because if you can't see me. And somebody says that they've heard that Denon has a little bit of sparkle. I hope it does. I hope it does, because I think the Marantz sounds a little more subdued, is maybe the best way to say it. On the subwoofers, we have 4, 4, and 4. On the pre-outs, we have the full 7.4.4, 7.4.4, 7.4.4. So the pre-outs are the same on all these, but they're unbalanced. There's no balance connections on any of these, either an input or an output. To get balance from Denon and Marantz, you've got to move up to their flagships. And anything else we want to say on the back here? Ethernet jack on each of these. You got your antennas for Bluetooth and for Wi-Fi on each of them. So they're pretty similar. The phono input is moving magnet like any of these receivers. I don't think any of them have moving coil for built-in. And as far as logos, Vision, Atmos, IMAX Enhance, DTS, DTSX, Oral 3D, Dirac. What none of these have as DTSX Pro, from my understanding. And I think you've got to go up to the AV10 to get the DTSX Pro or the A1H from Denon. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this kind of, we've been going here about 45 minutes. This is kind of what I intended to show today, but I'm certainly willing to stick around for some questions, some comments, your feelings on these. Now, this isn't going to be the end of our reviews here with receivers and processors. I'd like to get in Yamaha, compare those. Yamaha is one of the few brands out there still doing their own room calibration, their Wipow. The Sony is another one that's still doing their own room calibration out there. And then you've got the premium Pioneer Onkyo Integra. I think out of the three, I'm most interested in the Integra, although it's the most expensive one in there. Of course, it would be neat to do a same shootout. Like, what's the difference between the top of the line Pioneer, Onkyo, and Integra? That would be, I think, very cool to see. Just looking at these comments here to see if there's anything else that we should be addressing tonight. Looks like, Joe, you're getting the A1H. Yeah, that could be exciting. It's expensive. And I always wonder, because I've been using external amplifiers, does it get to be a point when you start paying $6,500, and I think that's the cost for an A1H Denon, and it has the amplifiers built in, and it's, as far as having built-in amplifiers, I mean, that's pretty powerful, that way you've got on that. Are you still better off with going, would you be better to buy a separate amp than to jump into the 1A? I would say it'd be worth it if we find that the circuitry is such a higher quality in the 1A. I wouldn't do it for the amplifiers alone. But these are the things that we're trying to find out. Now, the 6700H, I don't believe there is equivalent in the new 2022-23 models from Denon, in whether one's planned or not. Jason, thanks a lot for that super thanks donation. Really do appreciate it. And one thing I've really noticed with this channel is everybody's been very kind. Rarely do I get somebody that's saying anything mean, and I think that's really unique out there. I just feel like the people that are listening in on this channel are very respectful, and I want to thank you for really making this a community of, you know, that's that we're all supportive of each other, and I think that's awesome. Anything else I would like to know from you, and whether you put it on the chat tonight or you come in later, if you have some ideas about some of the comparisons and tests that I should do when I'm doing the reviews, that would be really helpful. What I want to start doing is have a set sequence that I run through, and for each product that we bring in, we're going through the same test in the same way, very consistently. And I think it will be easier for you to really understand the differences if we're consistent like that. And to use tools like the calibration disc, which is here. This has actually been sitting in my Blu-ray player. I've used this more than a regular Blu-ray lately, but It's in the business I am to find out how good these units are, and but done some level matching between the speakers on them. I would like to do a review on this as well. Let you guys know what my experiences are. I'm not expecting much difference in the software between the Denon 3800, the 4800, the Marantz 50, as well as the 40 that's here. They're all developed using basically the same software, from my understanding. Now, one of the mistakes I've made in the past is I've started my reviews before upgrading these. I don't think I'm going to do that again. I thought there was some value to see what the out-of-the-box experience is, but I think it's probably better just to advise everybody, run the factory upgrades before you do anything, because it's only going to lead to disappointment. So always update these units, unless we read something that says this particular version is no good. But for the most part, if something's been out there for a few weeks, it's been proven out and is doing well. Aural 3D, I don't have a lot of experience with. Of course, I don't have height channels, which Aural 3D prefers. I have ceiling channels, 4 of them. And I don't have a voice of God. Now, the problem of voice of God in my room is right in the center of my theater is I've got pipes underneath the ceiling. So I really can't mount speakers in the ceiling right above my main listening point. Yeah, there's workarounds. We could hang something from the ceiling and on surface mount or something like that. But I'm just not ready to go there yet. Now, the good thing is, when we got one of the latest upgrades from Marantz and the Cinema 50 is it's not requiring you to configure a speaker as a height to use Aural 3D. You can configure as ceilings and still use Aural 3D. So maybe the end results are not as good, but at least you can run your Aural 3D and your Aural mix-up up mixers. And I do like the experience. Now, not for every piece of content do I like the Auralmatic, but I do find I'm using it a lot. So we're getting some comments on the HDAM and that that there's some sort of distortion that's associated with it. It's not something I think something I'm going to have to read into. I can't confirm or deny any distortion reports at this time. When you say you enjoyed it with gaming content, I'm assuming you've enjoyed the Aural up mixer on that. So we're coming on to about an hour, and I think it might be getting late for some of you. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jason, for that clarification. It was with Aural 3D that you're doing the gaming content, so that's great. I'm just curious because I'm only using a low quality speakerphone here for my microphone, USB, and I'm using this Logitech camera. I know it's not the best, but has it been acceptable for the audio and the video quality tonight? I definitely want to up the game, though. I do want to get some better lights in here for not just for these live streams, but everything else I do. So Joe, thank you. Yeah, the Auralmatic, you're saying works well within ceiling speakers. Oh no, you're saying I've noticed also works with. Is that new? Yes, it is new. It was with a firmware update, at least on the Denon and Marantz products. Now, Denon, these are the only products I have with Aural. When I got the Anthem doesn't support Aural 3D. Emotiva doesn't support Aural 3D. The Onkyo that we have, which is still here. Let's bring up the, you want to see the Onkyo? Well, it's still here. Oh. All right. We still got the Onkyo. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 receiver or processors in the room at once. So I'm really excited to be able to kind of get all these in one place. But we were talking about, the Onkyo TXRZ50 does not support Oral 3D, but the new 70 does. But you're going to pay, I think, about $3,200 for that. Off on my numbers there. I apologize if I didn't get that right, but you can't get Oral 3D on everything. So we'll see how all of these units from Denon Marantz do with Oral-matic. I don't have a single movie disc, and I've been buying a lot of UHD discs lately that are native Oral 3D, and we don't see it in streaming content either. The other thing that none of these units support that I have, all of them, none of them support DTS:X Pro. Not a lot of action on that. I know Anthem originally stated that when they first released the AVM 70 and 90 a few years ago, it was on the website, DTS:X Pro, and then they removed it, and then we never heard from them again. I think Emotiva was the same. No more mention of that. Yes, Arcam, I believe, has Oral. The Harman brands support Oral 3D, I believe. So, gang, any final comments? We try to do things a little bit differently here, not because it's always better, but just to give you a little different approach to this. And I hope it's serving you well. So with that said, I think that it's probably a good time to close off this live stream. I'm really excited. I've got this long weekend. I can start listening to all these units, start putting some content together. We'll probably do this over a couple of parts for the Denon, the Marantz Super Shootout. And I think that it's really neat because you've got 4 products, 2 from Denon, 2 from Marantz, that all have the same speaker layouts. They all have the same number of amplifiers. The amplifier wattage differs only slightly. The features are pretty much all the same as far as the software and what you get for sound formats, what you get for streaming. They all have HEOS. I think they're made in different places. Let me look on the back here. As expected, the 40's made in Japan. The 4800's made in Japan. And where is this one? I don't see it. They're not talking about it, but I believe the 3800 is made in Malaysia. So for these two, do you get a really much better quality made receiver for the ones that are made in Japan? The Denon 4800, the Marantz Cinema 50 versus the Cinema 50, the 40 versus the 50. I get confused because the Denon models go up in number, the Marantz go down when you go up in price. try the knob feel on the Japan ones. Ah, will it feel heavier? Let's try. My knobs are on the front. I forgot I spun these around. So I've got Malaysia, Japan. Oh, I like the Japan one. So let me get this right. So the volume is on the right, particularly the volume knob. The volume one on the Japan 4800 is silky smooth, and the Malaysia one has this clickety. It has little detents, and it just feels like a lot less. It's not. uh, the input selects feel about the same. Now I'm going to try the same with the Cinema 50. I'm going to go 40 to 50. I think the Marantz, they're the same, but on the Denon, the Japan model wins. But I'm glad you had me pick that out. But just on the Denon, really interesting. Yeah, if it would be hard for me to give up the 4800 just for the feel of the volume knob. You know what volume knob almost feels the best to me? Is the one of my Sony TAE 9000 ES from the 1998 model. That had a gorgeous feeling volume knob. Heavy, smooth, and a servo motor that moves it. Pretty cool. Anything else? I'm happy to go a little longer, but I do feel like we're a little bit winding down. This has been fun. Um, really appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Appreciate the super thanks, donations. That's going to help me a lot. I'm really a self-funded channel. I don't have anybody sending me much. I had some of the low-end devices sent to me, but as far as all these receivers and processors, I've had a self um, finance. Oh, the old Marantz. I think Joe, don't you have one of those vintage 70s or did Marantz's? I got to get that one recapped. My mom still has it. She still has the Marantz 2275. That's not leaving. Even if we don't plug it in, but it's not leaving. That has a lot of memories. Team, thanks so much. Um, you got yours in storage. Excellent. This is really fun. I should do more of these. Um, and I really appreciate you coming in short notice. I really didn't plan this. The boxes showed up. I got to do something. So thank you. Until the next time, keep evolving your audio experience.